If everyone's okay, we'll get going. So, welcome to How to Build Successful Partnerships Without Risking Your Business Model or Reputation. And thank you for choosing our session and joining us today. I'm John Koo, and it's my pleasure to chair this session. Now, as with any event with the Crowd and the Global Good Awards, the aim of these sessions is to dive a little bit deeper. The route we'll take is we'll have opening remarks from each of our speakers. Then we'll go into some roundtables where we can delve into the problems that you're facing, the challenges that you're seeing. And then we'll come back for some Q&A. Now, what a panel we have for you today. I hope in my little bit of research as a chair, I take things very seriously. We're going to be tackling everything from sewage to food waste, to empowering the next generation on climate, to addressing the cost of living crisis, creating job opportunities, and how we adapt our cities for the future. Now, I've been watching the parties, different conferences, and I don't think any of them are covering all those things in their manifestos, but they should be. And we have here a whole range from John Sage, Head of Corporate Responsibility at Tideway, to Mark Game from the Bread and Butter thing. We have also lots of, because we're doing partnerships here in terms of Karen Lewis from Purcell Dirt is Good, alongside Nikki O'Malley from Global Action Plan, and on the far side, Wayne Hemingway from Hemingway Designs, alongside Maria Chenoweth from Trade. There's so much knowledge and experience in this group. So what I'm going to do is, to save time, get straight into the presentations. And the first presentation is going to come from John, a little bit about John. As well as being the head of corporate responsibility for Tideway, a huge tunnel that's going to be solving our sewage crisis in London, he's also a member of Business and the Community London Leadership Board and a trustee for London Youth Rowing. But John, over to you. Tell us a little bit about the partnership you've been working on.
Thank you, John. Can everybody hear me? Yeah, good. Great segue. John's chair of Surfers Against Sewage, so nicely into me, and I'm delighted to take part in this session to talk about how we build partnerships for a more sustainable world. And I'm going to kick things off by talking about our experience at Tideway and partnerships. Now, Tideway is the company building and financing the Thames Tideway Tunnel in London, as John said. The Super Sewer is how we call it. It's a 25-kilometre tunnel, one of the UK's nationally significant infrastructure projects. Runs from Acton in West London through to Stratford in East London, all the way through central London, underneath the River Thames to depths of almost 70 metres. And it's tackling a problem where more than 30 million tonnes on average of raw sewage is going into the River Thames every year. Yep, more than 30 million tonnes. We're a separate company to Thames Water, and we were specifically put together for this project in a new model for the water industry. Construction began in 2016, we began tunnelling in 2018. We're now, this year, we finished our tunnelling and we're now opening the first of 7 new riverside spaces, new bits of embankment along London, where we've gone out into the river to sink the shaft for the tunnel. And the first one opened last month in Putney. So really getting to that important part, the beginning of the end, if you like. We start testing next year, which means we start cleaning up the river, and we complete the project in 2025 when Thames Water will operate the asset that we will own, which is the tunnel. Now, I'm sure you'll all have seen a big increase in the level of debate about sewage pollution and lots of growing opinion about how unacceptable it is. We share that. And also lots of debate, most recently, about major infrastructure and the importance of it, and various politicians' view of that. Amid all that, we've been getting on and doing this project. We're now 2 years out from fully completing it. We're less than 1 year away from cleaning up the river, which the likes of John, I'm sure, will be very pleased to hear. Now, like any major infrastructure project, we aim to deliver wider benefits as well as the main engineering task of building the tunnel. And we developed a legacy strategy at the start of the project, which was not just to build the tunnel, the asset that is the 25-kilometre tunnel under the Thames, but something where we wanted to have a wider ambition to change Londoners' relationship with the river. We called that opportunity to reconnect London with the River Thames, and we set up a lot of partnerships to aim to deliver that wider aim. Just a couple of examples: we partnered with TfL, the PLA, the company Waterman and Lighterman, to found the Thames Skills Academy. That has been rejuvenating training and skills on the river, because we committed that 90% of what we took out of the ground we take away by river rather than road. And that's leaving a really strong legacy with 50 apprentices we funded, 107 qualified boat masters using a new simulation centre, the first continuous professional development of river workers, not an industry that's had a lot of attention on continuous professional development for its staff. So really some strong legacy there. We've partnered with communities and artists around public art. So these 7 new riverside spaces I mentioned, we're working with them on public art that we can put in those spaces. And the first one is at Putney, where that opened last month. But I just want to talk specifically about how we've developed partnerships with community organisations to back up this idea of connecting Londoners with the River Thames. We've done it in 4 areas: education, heritage, leisure and environment. And specifically I want to talk about our partnership with the environmental charity Thames 21, London-based charity, and we funded their programme called Thames River Watch. And Thames River Watch is now running for 8 years, essentially engages communities and trains people to lead clean-ups among their community, where they not only collect litter that washes up on the foreshore, and there's lots of it, anybody who lives near the river will know that, but they also count it, which has allowed, because nobody understands the scale of this stuff, and that's allowed Thames 21 to publish that data and lobby for change, and that data has been used. For example, the GLA Environment Committee used it when they were looking at introducing new water fountains and the challenge with single-use plastic bottles. It's also, we've got to a place now where that partnership is also providing a baseline of the kind of things that our project will stop, so we can see how much sewage-derived litter is going to go out. Because if anybody lives particularly in the west of London, the foreshore there has been completely changed by wet wipes sinking into the river, changing the nature of that. There's thousands and thousands of them in an area the size of 4 tennis courts on the west, just south of Hammersmith Bridge. So it's a strong partnership, one which we're proud of. And I just want to kind of just say 3 things about where I see the principles that have worked for us with that. The first is be aligned. Both Tideway and Thames 21 both cared about the river. We both engaged communities. But we also, as well as having environmental principles, we were pragmatic. There was a lot of debate back in 2012 about whether the tunnel was needed. A lot of carbon, why do you need that? Isn't it just sustainable drainage you can bring in, or a combination? And Thames 21 were among the charities who said, no, we think the Thames Tideway Tunnel is needed now because it's urgent and this is the right solution for now, cost effective to deal with this problem. So be aligned, make sure you're aligned. Second, think long term, and I'm not just talking about the number of years, I'm talking about, can you leave, as a corporate, can you leave that charity stronger when you finish? And think about that on every level. So with us in Thames 21, we've supported them right from trustee level. We've done, some of our directors have been on their appeal board, right the way through the organisation, HR, legal, etc. And also our teams have acted as the river action leaders that I mentioned earlier, and they found it amazing because they've got new skills that are nothing to do with their job, but they absolutely love it, and it really does turn them into advocates. So think about that long-termism. And the third thing is, can you think about how you might both use and accept them as a critical friend? So being honest, Thames 21 have developed, in the time we've partnered with them, from a community engagement charity to a charity that is a strong campaigner, which has been fantastic to see. But it means, for example, that they're tough on Thames Water at times, and Thames Water now co-fund Thames River Watch with us, and that can make things awkward. But we accept that, and actually, for us to see Thames anyone moving from that position of we do community engagement to actually we do that, but we also campaign for change has been really, really great to see. So they're the three principles that I think for us say, when you saw the brief for the session, how do you get the right partner? How do you make it work for both? And how do you avoid greenwashing? That's what I would say. Are we leaving the audience with questions now, John, or do it at the end?
You can pose it now, and I will
Okay.
say them again.
So my question would be looking at it from a corporate point of view, but this works also for non-profits. What's the one, thinking about a partnership that matters to you, either one you've got or one that is coming up or you want to make happen, what one person or team, whether they're currently involved or not, could have a positive influence on that partnership? Who could make it flourish and why? Because I'll be interested to see if there's common bits of businesses or non-profits that aren't as involved as they could be in helping you to make it a success.
Thank you very much, John. And I always love that phrase, critical friend. I think throughout my career, it's been a really useful one. Outrageous bias on my side. Right, next up, we have Mark Game. Now, Mark's had 20 years working in redistributing food waste. Well, they wouldn't look at you, it's like 28. So he's also founded the first social supermarket, which is quite apt for a talk we have a little bit later, and also is a serving trustee for Food Cycle, who I think do phenomenal work and often people's first experience when their job takes them to volunteer for a few hours. But introducing Mark to share the bread and butter.
Hi everyone. So I'm Mark Game. I've been the founder of the Bread and Butter Thing, and started it 7 years ago. Why did I start it? I suppose this is about fairness for me. So I was born and raised on a council estate up in the northwest in a little Lancashire town called Preston. And I used to remember seeing bread vans and veg vans coming around and the community spirit that they brought with them. So we kind of did that and took a surplus food twist to it. So we stopped food from going to waste in supply chain. So we don't do supermarkets. We don't collect from the back of supermarkets. I don't advocate collecting food from the back of supermarkets because it's all really past the best life it can be. If you go into supply chain, you can get more volume, you can get longer life, and you can do something really interesting with it and intercept crops as well. More life, more variety, more nutrition. So we take that food and we go into, I think it's about 110 hubs every week now. So we create food clubs. So we'll take food, about a ton of food, into all of these hubs every week. And there's one paid member of staff that will go with a van, and it looks like a kind of supermarket home delivery van. It's a refrigerated box sprinter. And they'll be met by about 10 volunteers from the community. And that community will then pack that food into bags. So we look at it like a veg box scheme. So it's a push model. People don't get to choose, but it means that all the bags are equal. There's a fairness to the distribution. And we'll charge £8.50 for that. And they'll get a bag of fruit and veg, a bag of chilled goods, and a bag of cupboard goods. And people say they save about 25 quid. So we see the food as the hook. This is the first step to building the communities for us. So we work with community projects that are already out there doing great work, okay? So partnership number one with the community projects. Partnership number two with the community themselves and the volunteers that come from that community. Now, when they come along and we partner with them, we then work together to say, what else can we do? What are the issues within your community? What else can we be addressing? And we talk to our members, so our customers that come from the community, we call them our members because we kind of like to live and breathe it with them. And we survey them a lot to ask them about their own voices, because one of the objects of our charity is to amplify the voices of low-income households. And we start to build data around it, and then, and only then, when we've agreed a way forward, do we then start to look at external stakeholders, service providers, etc., that could partner with us and partner with the communities to provide additional support like digital inclusion, debt advice, employability, health and well-being, mental health. And I'll talk to you a bit about the digital one in a minute. So we do that very much reliably. the importance for us for our model is that we go to the same place every week, 52 weeks a year, come rain or shine. And we never missed once through COVID. We never missed once throughout any of the existence of bread and butter. We even do Christmas. So Christmas Day just gets moved on to Boxing Day. We recognize the importance of being able to have access to that affordable food. Okay, so yes, there's an environmental play, but there's a much wider social play to this, and we see the value of those calories going far beyond the simple calorific value. So we talk to our members a lot and start to work out what we need to do to be helping with gaps. And a common factor is life admin. So lots of people kind of think it's digital, but I would definitely call it life admin. If you've got a universal credit form to complete and you don't have the skills to complete it, doesn't matter if it's on a bloody screen or on a paper, you just can't complete it, and it's hard. And they're deliberately hard in my view. If you've ever done a passport form and you've done a check and send at the post office, that service really should be there for people that are claiming benefits at the same time, because truly, just silly little things, and you're 6 weeks waiting again. So we do a lot of this type of stuff. Our members will tell you, just to give you a flavour of who they are, predominantly over 80% of our members are women. They are in a household of a minimum of 3 people, and they're typically the ones feeling the responsibility to feed the household, but they're also dealing with not only kind of supporting children, but also they've got at least either holding down a part-time job or caring responsibilities for somebody beyond children, and it could be special needs kids or adults with mental health or age-related illnesses. And we'd like to try and gauge where they are in the national average. So one of the things that we did recently, we asked everybody, the Office for National Statistics asked in a general poll, if you had a surprise bill of £850, could you pay it? What would it do to your life? And over 80% said yes, they could, but it'd be difficult. Now, the reason for the £850 we found out is because that's roughly the cost of replacing a central heating boiler. So we knew that was a ridiculous number for our members. So we asked for about £100. How many of you could actually afford a £100 shock bill out of the blue? 80% said they couldn't. They could not afford a £100 surprise bill. So we thought, okay, let's dig a bit deeper. And we said, well, okay, how much do you tend to have after rent, mortgage, utilities to be for food and for everyday activities or travel to work, etc.? Over 80% of them said 50 quid. So you try and survive on 50 quid after your bills for a month. That's pretty hard. Let's couple that with the good food plate. Oxford did a study on this to say the good food plate costs roughly 127 quid per person per month. Now, we're talking about 50 quid a household with 3 people in it, so we're talking way, way away from where you could actually eat healthily. And that's a real issue to us. So that access to nutritional food is fundamental in what we do. So lots of pictures of people that sound like they're having a really, really tough time. And what's really interesting about it is when you go into the communities and you actually talk to them and you say, how are you going? They're all like, yeah, fine, we're good. And it's bizarre because no matter how hard it gets, they'll tell you they're okay. And it's such a British thing to do. You know, we're all like, yeah, we're all right. But they're not. They're really struggling. They're stressed. They're stretched. They're Theresa May's jams. They're just about managing. And they don't have a voice because there's very few people in the UK. We're the first charity, I think, in the UK to have a decent set of data on the low income households. So we talked to the research teams at DWP and places, and they're gobbling up this data because they've never seen it before. So that's a really positive thing that we see that we're doing. But partnerships, let's come back to partnerships. So what do we look for in a partner? When we look for a partner, we feel that we can't afford to be the little guy. Because what we like to do is like a quality triage on the service providers that are coming in, because we see big national established brands that want to partner with us. They want to provide services into the communities that we reach. And they want to come on the back of us because they'll come into the events that we create, those 3 hours a week when we're packing bags and doing teas and coffees and the community's liaising with us. That's when they want to engage with us. And we feel there's a real sense of duty to us to make sure that people that were coming in don't have two heads and doing it for whatever reason they have that isn't necessarily to be building resilience into the community. So we feel a responsibility for that. So we always go and bat above our weight if we're going to try and partner with anybody that's looking to do this. And we did this recently. We went to a national digital conference to talk about digital exclusion. And we're the little guys. All right, we're not that little. We've got 60,000 low-income households on our books. We've got 110 hubs. We've got 1 million meals a week we're doing. It's not that little, but when you go national, it's kind of little. It's kind of, everyone still sees you regional. So we went along and we explained some of the issues. And for those of you that don't know, digital exclusion really is threefold. It's kit, it's affording the kit, it's connectivity, but the most expensive bit that no one wants to fund is the knowledge and the support. People are afraid to get online because they're scared of getting scammed, they're scared of doing the wrong thing, they're scared of breaking stuff, and they need that support, and that support needs to come into the community. So we went to this national digital conference, and we approached and put a shout out to say, we'd love to do this, but actually, if anybody's thinking of doing digital, that's what we absolutely advocate. You should be doing this, and you should be doing this face-to-face, because if you're going to do an online course, what's the bloody point of doing an online course with people that are digitally excluded? Question. It's true, it happens. And I don't know why it happens, because it seems crazy. So we got approached by Lloyds. So Lloyds do a consumer digital index every year and looking at digital literacy, and it's one of their things. And we thought, okay, we'll have a good look at it. So we had a good look at Lloyds, and together we'd done a pilot. And with partnering with Lloyds and then Vodafone, who provided the data, and We Are Digital, who provided the in-house skills to do the training and support, we come up with a pilot to bring everybody together in our hubs to do some digital support. And I could tell you lots of stories about lots of people that have actually moved and the distance they've traveled. Frank is one in particular. He's 78. He's a bright guy, but he's never touched a phone, never mind a tablet or laptop in his life. And he lives away from his family. His family are up in Scotland, and now he's the biggest Facebook fan I've ever seen. He can't get over it. It's so funny. But the importance behind it was we saw the distance travelled, and Lloyds did some really valuable stuff for us on measuring, using their skills to measure confidence of our members. People that attended distance travelled, we were not great at that. And that was a really good, valuable thing that they brought to us. But we kind of knew we didn't do that. So for us, the partnership bit for us was really coming to them and saying, look, we know what we're good at, but you tell us what you're good at and tell us what you're going to do for us. It's really important to us that you just don't come along and do this and then we do a bit of press about it. We want to know what's happening so that we can actually, as John was saying, come out of this stronger so that we can learn. We're really fast learners. So that was important to us. So I think I'm going to wrap up, but I'm going to pose you a question as well, particularly, I guess, to corporates, to say, when you actually do this, the two things that I find is there's far too many people thinking about the marketing message. So how do you actually get the authenticity into what you're doing? And I think to John's point as well, the longevity. How do you actually get the partnership so that the charities coming out of this stronger, so that they don't just drop off a cliff when the support goes? Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. And when it comes to punching above your weight and being authentic, everything you do in the Bread About thing and everything you present it, it exudes it. A quick note to change. So next up, a bit of a change of scene. We've got two speakers. Nikki O'Malley is the Director of Partnerships at Global Action Plan. And everyone's getting a bit jealous now. She's been recently working with David Attenborough, the great sir, everyone's grandfather, on the Wild Owl show and through business engagement and partnerships, which must have been pretty exciting. And then Karen Lewis is Marketing Manager at Unilever. Although your title needs to be grander than this. You spent the last 2 decades working within South Africa, and more recently here on a range of brilliant campaigns with your brands. But I will leave Nikki and Karen to share their partnership.
Thanks very much for that intro, John. And so exciting to be here today with so many people in the room and an amazing panel of speakers who join us. We've had an amazing relationship with the Global Action Plan team, as well as our local implementation partners, Future Foundations, running our Dirt is Good Schools program. So I'm going to ask Nikki just to give us a little bit of a sense of the impact and scale of how that program has run.
Yes, absolutely, Karen. Yeah, that's cool. So, we are really proud to have worked with Unilever for 3 years now on this Dirt is Good Schools program, which is a global program where we've created this really in-depth activity with schools and communities around the world on a global level. So we work in the UK, we work in Thailand, we work in Chile, and we're all about empowering young people and creating young change makers to take environmental and social justice action. So we go in with this program, we find out what the kids themselves are really interested in taking action on. We aren't coming in and prescribing a step-by-step what they should be exploring, but we're speaking to the children and what they want to take action on. Our teams empower them to have the ability and everything that they need really to go forward and take action for a better world. So the program that we worked with the Unilever guys on is an evidence-based program. So we did some really groundbreaking research in conjunction with the Unilever team, where we looked at the behavioural science behind how to empower young people and to really give them the tools to take action in their communities for themselves and for their community around them, and really unleash that potential of young people to take action for a better world. So yes, the program's still in place around the world at the moment. So it's still in place in the UK and Thailand and Chile at the moment. And we're empowering young people again to become these young change makers taking action. We've reached 8.7 million people, I think is our recent stat, which is really fabulous. And really, really proud of the work that we've done in making the world a better place through those young people and empowering them to do it. So Karen, I wonder if you could talk to us a little bit about how the partnership aligned with your Unilever values and your strategy.
Absolutely. So here in the UK, the brand is called Persil, but it goes by many names across the world. So we tend to call it the Dirt is Good group of brands, which is why the program is called the Dirt is Good project. And when we recognized this research around the gap between how people felt their intrinsic belief system and the external action that they were prepared to take, it fitted in perfectly with our purpose as a brand, which has always been around childhood development. So about 20 years ago, this idea of dirt is good was born out of the belief that actually anything in service of developing and growing young people is fine, including getting really dirty and messy along the way. So that's our brand role within that. We can take care of all the stains made through that. But the focus has been on making sure that childhood development is enabled as far as possible. And that made this perfect fit between the change that we both wanted to make as organizations. So because it's quite a complicated subject to tackle, we really needed a partner who was very aligned with us. This was something that we needed to bring to life across geographies. Our partner needed to be able to work with different governments and school systems and help bring and shape this program together. And to do that, we had to be very clear about what our ambition was. So around how do we unlock this potential from young people? How do we give them the tools that they needed to take action and drive change themselves? And a big underlying ability that we brought as the two teams to this as partners was being flexible. We had to be flexible in how we designed the program. We had to react to changing environments. And the impact of COVID had a really, really big role and reshaping of how we wanted to bring the project to life. So, Nikki, do you want to talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, that was a really challenging time. Obviously, we were launching at the end of 2019 into 2020, so we had big plans to be going big very quickly with this whole program, but obviously the early stages were hugely impacted by COVID. So we had to be flexible and agile, as Karen was saying, and reshape the program. And then we actually found it was beautifully well placed to be part of the schools and communities post-COVID packages of well-being care, because actually when those young people came back into in-person education, they could utilise this research-based program that we had created with Unilever that was all about the development of compassionate values. And as Karen was saying, it's about the intrinsic and the extrinsic motivation. So without going into too much detail, it allows the children to understand that things that they believe in, it could be that they have this, what we call the values perception gap, where they might think that nobody else around me actually cares to the extent that I do. So I'll keep quiet about it because actually that will sideline me, as I'm the only person that cares about that. So actually our program is very much about showing them that other people do care. And if you raise your voice up and express your truth and your opinion, you'll galvanise other people to come along with you. So we found that was hugely impactful and went down really well, as I say, with the schools and communities. This is around the world because we were all collectively experiencing the same post-COVID challenges. So that's been really important in many contexts and a big challenge that our partnership had to face at that point. So based on the fantastic relationship that we have with the Unilever team, with both the UK team and the global team within Unilever, and also the relationships that we have with the delivery partners. So we have delivery partners in the UK, Thailand and Chile, as I've said, who are all experts within their local geographical context and have adapted the program. So in Thailand, for example, they don't deliver it within the school setting. They actually deliver the program within a weekend, almost a PE-based boot camp setting, which the children go out and they experience it. So it's outside of a school environment, but we've had fantastic impact from those guys in Thailand, some really beautiful stories from the young people empowered to take action who would otherwise have struggled to feel that they were having an influence in the world around them. So that's been a really big part. So would you agree, Karen, from your perspective?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, here in the UK, we've had over 15,000 young children take part in different projects. And I think the real strength of the program has been that they've been able to choose what they care about. We haven't prescribed, you have to tackle plastic waste. We've said, go and find what worries you in your community and shape a program around that and tackle it in a small way. And we've had really small little projects all the way through to tackling racism in schools and in sport. And that's a really complicated topic for young people to take on. It's hard enough as adults to tackle something like that. And the beautiful stories that we've seen and the research that we've done that has shown that change in perception and that willingness to take action is showing that the program design has worked. So I think if we come back to the partnerships that, John already spoke about it, that alignment of values and the ambition of wanting to create change is critical in finding the right partner. But flexibility has been super, super important, that able to change to, really radically changed external environment, but also to the feedback that we get from the schools or the local providers, so that we've been able to keep shaping and iterating the project as we've gone along in the last 2.5 years has been critical. And just that openness to giving up control. So we've put in place really clear parameters, but actually the control sits with the young people taking action. And that willingness to not be completely overseeing everything has meant that the project's evolved in a way that surprised us all. And the impact has been so much deeper than we could have imagined when we started shaping the whole thing.
Yeah, thank you, Karen. Yeah, and that's been really pivotal for us at Global Action Plan to work with a brand that has actually enabled us as the NGO to go ahead and crack on with what we knew needed to happen. And then by extension, we enable the delivery partners to go ahead and crack on in the way that they feel is going to be most impactful for the young people where they are. So touching on that in the spirit of empowerment, our question for you guys was, particularly for brands in the room, what might it look like if you were to empower your audiences and stakeholders to take action for a better world? in that spirit of passing the baton on to them and allowing them to crack on in the way that they see fit. So yeah, that's us. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And that's, it's great to see similar themes of agility, flexibility, empowerment, and authenticity. Moving on to our last project. I'm excited to introduce Wayne Hemingway. He's a co-founder of Charity Supermarket, which is the project, but also Hemingway Design. He's been a huge influence on UK fashion and culture. And on a more personal note, redeveloped and regenerated Dreamland in Margate, which was a childhood haunt of mine. Alongside him is Maria Chenoweth, who's the CEO of Trade, another huge part of my life in terms of getting vintage clothing and also donating it, and also the co-founder of Charity Supermarket. He's got huge experience within retail, and I think it's something about our clothes when it comes to the circular economy, when it comes to engaging emotionally. It's a really powerful thing, but I'm going to stop talking about it and let you guys talk about it. Over to you.
So yeah, we'll just give a very quick background on ourselves and then move on to Charity Supermarket. So I'm the Chief Executive of the Charity Trade, which is all about our clothes. So we fund projects across the globe on trying to right the wrongs of how our clothes are made. So Ethiopia, we work with people transitioning farmers from using pesticides to organic cotton production. In the UK, my whole mission has been about getting people to wear second-hand clothes and making it socially acceptable. So I've raised so many millions and millions of pounds within the charity retail sector. And yeah, as a little sideline, I'm sort of a fellow at the Open University online. Yeah, that was a very poignant comment that you made earlier. In the business module section of the university, which sort of fits with what we're going to say, because the teachings of the MBA is all about competition, and I really believe that's wrong, and life should be about collaboration. I don't know if collaboration means partnership, but to me, a collaborative way of working is the best way.
Thank you. Wayne Hemingway, co-founder of Hemingway Design. We've been going for 40 odd years now. Our first output was a brand called Red or Dead, which a few of you in here are old enough to know, which became a very big label, 25 million turnover, 300 odd staff. It was always very political, as well as its name. It was always very political, and we're a B Corp. Some of you will know what that is, but otherwise look it up later. We've always had literally for 40 years, we've had a catchphrase that we've never really published. It's always been on our website and stuff. Is that design is about improving things that matter in life. Everything we've done or we've tried to do has had to have a social outcome. At Hemingway Design now, the biggest thing that we do is we're urban designers, so we work in a lot of deprived towns around the UK on town centre regeneration, coastal regeneration. But we also do brand, interior architecture, just basically every bit of the design industries we do. Charity Supermarket, we've worked together, Maria and I have worked together for 20 odd years.
25 years.
25.
We both have a very solid background in second-hand clothes. That was the launch of both of our careers, wasn't it?
Yeah, so yeah, Red or Dead wasn't just some... Red or Dead came out of selling second-hand clothes on Camden Market starting in 1980, and that's how we learned to be designers, and that's how we made the money to fund the label Red or Dead. We never borrowed money or anything like that. I came from Blackburn in a council estate, just down the road from you. And so Charity Supermarket came out of a friendship, number one, and a partnership, and a kind of partnership of thinking. And both trying to solve an issue from two different angles. If I tell my angle and then you tell your angle, it's probably best. And it was the coming together of that partnership that has made it such a big success. So from my angle, it was, as urban designers, we kept going into town centres and being questioned, more than questioned, being told by elected members who are councillors who have a big say in your lives, a very big say in your lives. And what they were telling us was, Wayne and the team, can you reduce the number of charity shops in our town centres? They're bringing our town centres down. And I was just thinking, oh my God, can they be that much out of touch? Because even though I wasn't party to, I could easily go to Maria, and I did, and asked her, what are the stats on all of this? And you can say all that in a minute, but it was completely the opposite. That what charity shops were doing were bringing the right demographic, a more purposeful demographic, a future-facing demographic, Gen Zs, everybody that's the hardest group to meet were coming and shopping in charity shops, and people in here know why. You know, we don't need to explain that. If we haven't explained it by the end of this, then ask us. And therefore, talk to Maria about that, and from another angle.
So yeah, my parallel sort of universe that was going on at the same time was the greenwashing was really pissing me off. So, for example, you'd have Primark selling sausage rolls and second-hand clothes, and the commercial organisations were coming into the market. But they were getting all this press and publicity, you know, Marks and Spencer's does a wardrobe or whatever capsule, or, you know, all these stories, they're even going into The Guardian. So I went to The Guardian and I met with one of the journalists. I said, you don't give charities who sell second-hand clothes and do more for sustainability any newsworthy stories. I said, my organisation, a really small charity in London, we got the first ever organic cotton accreditation in Ethiopia. Now that's better than a story about sausage rolls and second-hand, and so that really like got me going. So we went along to the Charity Retail Association and had the centre stage and just listened to what charities were saying, which was they couldn't reach these Gen Zs and all the issues that they had.
And they were being excluded from the places with the highest footfall. So, you know, you'd never see a charity shop in Westfield or in Brent Cross or in the higher end shopping centres all around the UK. You've never seen one, they're just not there. But yet they were allowing, I'm not going to name them, they were...
It was River Island and...
You can do.
Yeah.
And
If they're in the room, I apologise, but you can have a conversation. Talk about it.
No, like bring back schemes. It's greenwashing. Just say it as it is, you know.
Yeah, so in every shopping centre there was greenwashing going on. Anyway, sorry, yeah.
No, I'm getting a bit impassioned now. You can carry on.
Yeah, and so we thought, right, okay, we need to change this narrative. You know, we need to go even further than telling old-fashioned, out-of-touch old councillors in town centres that charity shops work for the town, and actually go a stage further and make sure that there were charity shops next to Apple, next to John Lewis, next to Marks and Spencer's, in the highest value retail areas. And one landlord called Hammerson believed in us.
Because he had children who shopped charity shops. So I think the bottleneck was this like older generation, even though we're old, not understanding what we understand generically.
So we were given 4 weeks they said they had the old Topshop unit in Brent Cross, which is enormous, 10,000 square foot or 12,000 plus storage, in a prime location. The dream was there, Apple facing us, John Lewis entrance right next to ours, River Island, H&M, Marks and Spencer's. You couldn't be more prime than this. But we had 4 weeks to get it together. We'd no brand, we'd no charities. We just knew that we wanted to we had an idea the only way we can deliver this is all of the charities coming together, creating a partnership. And we thought of the idea of, could we have, because one of the issues, if you ask young people, is they like going around all the charity shops, but you have to get around 10 or 12 to get the wardrobe that you want. So we thought, let's bring the whole fucking thing together. More than that, this was like, both of us have a pathological hatred of Philip Green. And we've got a backstory there, which we're not going to tell today, but there's a real backstory. We probably should, yeah, we both brought, we were the first to bring second-hand clothing it was sold in Topman and Topshop in 24 years. 24 years ago. And when he took over, well, you know what the next story is. I don't even need to tell you. So there was
You need to speed up.
Yeah, there was a backstory, a really good backstory. So this was in his stomping ground because he's from near Brent Cross, and it was his shop, and there was anti-graffiti about him in the changing rooms. This was like, come on. So we had 4 weeks to do it. We created the brand Charity Supermarket. Have a look online and look at it. we pulled the charities
We
together.
went from concept, just an idea in our head, that's all we had to sell, this concept, and turning it into reality in 4 weeks over the Christmas period.
And we opened a shop that was every bit as exciting as Topshop was when we all loved it in its prime in 1992, with DJs, amazing branding. We left all of their signage. We sold their bags at 50p each. It was basically Topshop, but replaced 100% with second-hand clothes. You know, you cannot get more purposeful or circular than that. I put 10 grand into it just to think, you know, if we take 20 grand in the 4 week, we had a 4 week pop-up. If we take 20 grand, at least we paid the money back and made a statement. We took £375,000. We took £8,000 in the first 3 hours. We took £20,000 on the first Saturday. Do you want to look? You haven't got your glasses on. Sure, I'll do it. Oh, hang on, I've lost it. These are the stats from the first few months of Charity Supermarket. We sold 101,000 second-hand items. We stopped 30,000 kilograms going to landfill. We did 300,000 kg of CO2 emissions. We saved 50 million cubic metres of water. 3,000 hours of nursing care it paid for Marie Curie, etc., etc., etc. The numbers are absolutely massive. We then opened very quickly. We increased footfall by
7% in Brent Cross.
In the whole of Brent Cross.
So that partnership with Hammerson's, we gave them something back. So for them giving us something, and that is what a partnership is about. Otherwise, it doesn't work.
So then they wanted us everywhere, and so did every landlord. So this is the list of where we are and where we went. We went into the Oracle in Reading. We turned it down. It was listening to the charities. We said, no, surely it's not going to work in Reading. The charity said, come on, let's do it. And when we took 70% of what we took in Brent Cross, so these figures we took 70% of that. Then we went into Bristol, where we still are. It was for 4 weeks, but we'll have been there 6 months by Christmas. They want the landlords want to keep us there. Because we're increasing footfall everywhere. We're in Edinburgh, St James. These are the poshest places.
We're like a giant rash at the moment.
Yeah, we're in Bluewater now, massive in the Old Gap store in Bluewater. We open in Westfield in the Old Gap on the 23rd of November. It's just mad, and it's like we've got a chain of bloody shops, and we plan to do 4 weeks. But the great thing that we've got is the support of all these national charities, and without all of them. And without our part, and the whole thing is a partnership, and with a common purpose. But it's also about delivering something, and the fun, and the whole thing is just a blast.
So yeah, the most joyful part of the collaborations and partnerships is for the first time we've got charities working together. So they'll help one another out with the hours, the tills. The joy of it isn't. And before, someone had tried to bring charities together before, but the competition element just, it didn't deliver. And beyond all of that, you know, it is about raising funds where there is funding holes, whether it is, you know, research for the cure for cancer, we've got pets, you know, shelter and providing calls and services for people before they lose their homes. So, and the amount of hospices, so we can quantify the hours, the care and the outcomes, which are beyond anything really.
Yeah, and that's what your partners want. In the end, you've got to quantify things, because that means that every single national landlord now, whether it's Landsec, whether it's British Land, they all want us. You know, it's just, I've never been in demand, done some big stuff in my life, but I've never been in demand like this before.
But this isn't our day job either.
This is not. We're trying to fit it in. So if anybody wants to come and help us, then more, because we're fucked.
Do you have a question or provocation? Although I think there's about 20 provocations with that. But
I usually swear when you mention your age, so the question should be how
old
old are you?
Yeah, how old am I? The question is, how do we take this further with partnerships and without the question, without risking the business model or the reputation, we have to grow this because the demand is there. But how do we do it and stay sane, I suppose?
Thank you so much. Just a big warm round of applause again for all our speakers. One reflection that I was worried that we wouldn't get is, with partnerships, ones that I've worked in, it's that personal touch and the relationship that you've developed and you guys have developed as well. Like when you're saying it's a blast, every partnership, when it works out quite well, is a blast, would be my opinion. But now we're going to move on to the round tables. I'll repeat the 4 questions. We're going to be a bit short on time because I didn't want to cut these guys short. So I'm only going to give you kind of 10 minutes because I also want to come back for Q&A so you guys can ask these guys lots of questions. The group will also, they're welcome to circulate and join your groups and hear your ideas and hear your frustrations. But question 1 posed by John was, who is the one person or team who is currently included or not who could have a positive influence on the partnership that you're trying to do? Question 2 for Mark was, how do you get and ensure that authenticity and longevity in the partnership? The third question from Nick and Cameron was, what would it look like if your business empowered your audience to take action for a better world? And finally, from Wayne, how do we take this for? How do we scale charity supermarkets so we can remove any memories of Philip Green shops that were ever there before? If Chloe's here, I apologise. But I'll give you guys 10 minutes now within your groups to share your insights or your thoughts, or if you wish to go off-piste, you can do that too. Now, in the spirit of not making you late for lunch, where these conversations can continue, and beyond which, by email or any way you wish, under the laws of GDPR, should you share your details or not, feel free so. But what I suggested, we've got 10 more minutes, and I thought after those incredible talks, I want to give you guys the most opportunity to ask you guys for any questions or advice. But likewise, if you do have a solution to anything they've asked, feel free to share those too. But who would like to go first with a question for any of the panel or a reflection? Coming over.
So I had a question for, you said that the charities were unwilling to collaborate before. So what is it that you did that actually did bring them together, if they were previously competitive?
Yeah,
what changed?
That was 15 years ago. So my chair, Leica Cloud, set up the Charity Retail Association, so she's the chair of trade. She said, oh yeah, we tried that 15 years ago and nobody would work together. So I think because the times have changed and there is more competition coming into the market, like we are in commercial organisations that sell second-hand clothes. And I think we're trusted figures as well. So I've been in charity retail for 30 years. And he's been famous for before I was born. And,
Maybe not.
I foresaw Wayne on The Big Breakfast.
And so I think, it was the trusted figures. We're on the side of the charities. And
we also made it damn sexy. I mean, the brand. When you see the brand, the brand itself made them rethink what they could be.
But we sold it before they saw the brand.
Oh yeah, you're right. Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah. And it was taking them into places that they would not have got in on their own. It was the coming together.
But this whole notion, of competition was written in the 50s by men. All the business models. And it's really defunct in today's society, with climate change. So I guess there's lots of common goals now as well. So instead of competing for resources, if you share, you can save resources.
Follow up on that is how do we change that, or what can people in this room do to help change, break those paradigms that we've been stuck in for so long that were designed by people
well, I mean, this is the challenge, really, to save the planet, isn't it? So with, the climate emergency that we live within and all these corporations unwilling to change, I don't know. I mean, I can't think about that big picture anymore because it's driving me beyond nuts. So all I can think is, in my daily life, I just want to do as much good as possible. So I'm not out to change the world because I don't believe I can change those corporations.
If it helps footfall at Brent Cross, you guys are to be beating people who'll spend millions on marketing, I think that says something. Was there another question here? Or I'm going to go. He's right here, but I'm coming.
My question sort of leads on a little bit from the point you just made. Does any of you have sort of perhaps a vision where in 10 years' time, whatever the ambitions you're following at the moment could be, what's your ideal scenario?
Who would like to take that one?
I might say something on that. I might just say, well, I suppose in terms of business and NGO collaboration, we're aiming towards, as we're saying, really authentic, genuine partnerships where the businesses are wanting to really have an impact on environmental and social justice is what I'm always looking for. But in terms of business models, we really need to start moving towards the regenerative model where the businesses are leaving not just a positive footprint, but actually restoring and having a regenerative impact in their operations, in their supply chains, etc., with their staff, with their customers, which we should be calling customers, consumers, communities rather than consumers, and citizens. So there's a lot of strategy out there. I think the perpetual chase for growth of GDP and growth of sales and continual month-on-month increase, year-on-year increase, very difficult to talk about that with business because, as Maria was saying, the entire business model is focused on that.
But that's like ingrained in us.
It's ingrained.
In like, even as I run a charity, it's like, let's make the bottom line bigger.
Yeah.
Because also, if you have this like creative thought process, but it isn't about that. It has to not be about that.
It's very difficult. It's going to be a societal shift, and it's going to start from the individual, I would suggest. We have to, as individual people, just be thinking about how we perceive what success means to ourselves, and then as leaders, hopefully then that ripples out across the organisations that we're operating within and the partnerships that we're operating within, I would say.
Can I have a go at that one? I think mine's a little simpler. So I really like people coming together, and I think we need to stop this digital race for everything. It works for some stuff, but it really damages our health and well-being, being on screens all bloody day. So I think something we can do about, I'm tactile, I'm face-to-face, I'm emotional. I like to interact with people, not screens. So I think I'd like to see more of that, frankly.
I think we have time for two. Oh, that's going to be hard. I let you down. But actually, why don't we I'll take them all and then see which ones you want to react to. This involves me running around like an absolute lunatic.
Get your steps in. Hello, I'm Matthew. I work for Cool Earth, which, question for Mark, really. We do exactly the same thing as you. We build resilience in communities who are just about managing, often under siege. They just happen to be in Peru, DR Congo, Papua New Guinea, and they live in rainforest. And the reason we do it is because they're the only people with any track record of keeping rainforest standing, bar none. WWF can't touch them. Is collaboration a real curse? Because you've got these businesses who are full of energy, full of zing, full of sustainability leads, but they actually want to get into a transaction where they get a lot out, when if they really believe in you, they should just give cash. And we're now in the position of turning down $750,000 each year of restricted cash, refusing it because we can only really give money with no strings attached to people who make far better decisions than we ever will. Do you want to almost get out of the mouse wheel that you're on, and so just give us the money, because in the words of Bob Geldof, we really can do something wonderful with it.
Mark, I'm going to give you 40 seconds to think about that whilst we take another question. So one in the middle.
I'll try and be really quick. So my question is more for big corporates. It's like, how do you say no to some of the partnerships? Because there's a lot of approaches from charities wanting to partner. So that's a really quick question. And then the other thing was just to say that I helped Lloyd set up that scheme, and I advise We Are Digital. So if there's anybody that wants to do anything similar while I'm here today, just come and see me. And I was there when Philip Green came in with his ladies. So yeah, we should recap on that.
So for that question, I'm going to suggest actually both, probably John and Nikki and Karen. But Mark, do you want to go back on this first question?
Yes. So we have, like you, turned money down because restrictions can be trying to make a square peg in a round hole very much. Collaboration's hard. I really like to think that we help the communities that we work with particularly, because there's something about that unknown. So communities don't always know what's out there as an opportunity that they could exploit. So we like to kind of collaborate with them, but to filter anything that comes through us from a corporate perspective. So I think it's a double-edged sword, really, because we really like, and I would say possibly, arguably, need corporate support to do what we do. We work a lot with food retailers, a lot with food industry, as well as Lloyds and everybody else. And we couldn't do what we do without taking what they offer. It's not always cash, but I think we've definitely had to be brave and bold and say, frankly, that's not for us at times. Even I'll give you an example where somebody came along from a faith-based organisation saying, we want you to help particular sections of the community. And we're like, well, I'm really sorry. We know you've got a shit ton of money, but actually we're for all. We're an open church, and we feel we'd be bending too far one way or another to actually do that. So yeah, it's definitely tough taking that cash, but it's even harder to say no to it.
I'll pick up the answer to what I think the answer is to the question about how corporates deal with lots of approaches from charities. And I go back to the three things I applied, because they're tests I would apply. So are you aligned? And that'll rule, then you'll hopefully be very clear. That's a really important filter. Secondly, think long term, and that again, because you need to be certain that you can have a partnership that lasts, but not just long term in number of years, but can you leave that charity stronger? Can you actually help them in a way which really leaves them better and not falling off a cliff when you go away? And then the third thing, can you use them and accept them as a critical friend so that they can potentially help you in ways that you didn't imagine when you started the partnership? That was how I would test it.
And I'll add just one thought on there, because we do get approached often looking for partnerships, but you really have to pick the right ones that allow scale, because otherwise you would spread yourself so thin you will make no impact. So you really have to be balancing on top of all of the alignment and the long-term objectives. Can this partnership drive impact for both parties? Because otherwise it could just become a donation. And that doesn't really benefit both parties because it's a once-off, it's not sustainable. So we have to bake in ways that the partnership can grow over time, and the perfect world would become self-sustaining with limited, investment. But it's about how do you pick the right moments to invest with partners who can create scale over time.
And that brings us to a wrap, because we've run out of time and it's now time for lunch. Now, as a little quick wrap-up, one thing I noticed in relation to the Global Good Awards, there's a couple of partnerships in those winners, which again shows that power. But thank you for joining us, for your insights, for your conversation, and a huge thank you to the panel here as well. Round of applause. And then lunch is going to be served in the Paget and Snow rooms, in which there'll be a number of people to head that way, or just look what people are running that way at the moment. Enjoy it. And the next sessions start at 2:30. They are listed here in terms of where they're going to be. So if you want to choose and pick, you can do that. Or for those who are very hungry, run while you can. But finally, thanks again to the panel, and thank you to yourselves. It's been a blast.